Welcome to the English with Kirsty podcast from www.englishwithkirsty.com. Here I'll be sharing with you tips, information and other learning resources so that you can improve your business English. Hello everybody and welcome to episode 68 of the English with Kirsty podcast. And today I'm going to talk about something that happened to me last week and something that really made me think, particularly for people who are listening to this that are small business owners or who work for themselves, or even if you don't, just the importance of not forgetting customer service and the everyday conversations you have with people, because I think sometimes people can spend a lot of time and effort preparing presentations, making sure the website is really good, making sure advertising materials are really good, and that's great, but don't forget the little things that you don't prepare for. So when you have a spontaneous call with somebody, it's not just about getting information, it's also about making them feel valued as a customer, or at least that you're interested in what they have to say. So the situation that happened to me, I needed some work to be done, so not for the business but privately, and I booked an appointment, and I wanted to use the appointment to explain what the problem was and to discuss how the company could help me, what they can do. And I got there and this guy was just everything that you shouldn't be when you're having one of those kind of appointments. So we knew how long the meeting would be, but the whole time I felt that he would rather be somewhere else, that I was taking up his time that he could have been using in another way, and I wasn't, because I'd booked this time with him. So he seemed distracted, and that kind of annoyed me to start with. If I asked questions in relation to what we were talking about, he didn't actually sigh, but it was like, oh, I have to answer a question now. And I thought, yeah, this is really bad. I'm potentially going to spend a fair amount of money with this company, and at the moment I'm not getting the impression that he is at all interested in what I'm talking about, and that doesn't make me feel good. And then we continued the conversation, and he clearly wasn't listening. So he was talking about what we could do, and I said, yeah, but that isn't actually the problem, as I've explained to you. I think he thought he knew what the problem was, but because he didn't listen, the main part of what I needed them to do, he'd missed that. And I was exasperated by the end, because I thought, well, if you can't even get the basic details right of what we're talking about because you're not listening, I can't trust you to do the work, because you're not paying attention and you don't seem particularly interested. So I left, and my partner asked me how it was, and I was just kind of angry at this time. So this is really not good. This is really poor customer service. And I said to him later, look, we're not going to let's not use this company, let's go somewhere else, because I'm sure there are other people around who will make a better job of this initial consultations. Let's go somewhere else. So we did, and a couple of days later I had another meeting with someone else, and she was the complete opposite of this guy. I don't know, perhaps they were both equally qualified to do the work, I don't know, but her manner for dealing with customers was so different. She gave the impression that she was interested, she listened, she asked questions about how I imagined things being done, what I wanted. She gave information about what she could offer. She was clearly listening, so she wasn't trying to do other things or giving the impression that she wished she was somewhere else. And I think that's important, because I remember a long time ago when I started one of my other jobs, it was my first day, and I met this woman, and she was really kind of, rude, I guess is the only way to. She was obviously having a bad day, and so I thought, oh, this woman is not very nice. And I learned later she wasn't. It was just she was having a bad day. But that first impression stuck with me, because I thought, oh, I need to make sure to avoid her then, because she's always rude to people. But there's a saying that people may forget what you said or did, but they won't forget how you made them feel. And first impressions really count when it comes to how you feel as well. I don't mean that you should go completely onto that, because I've seen people trying to sell things. Oh, how do you feel about this? How do you feel today? And I'm not here to talk about how I feel. I'm here to get some information. So you can go too far with that. But if you are meeting with customers, you need to make them feel that you're at least interested in what they're doing, and not that you really wished you were somewhere else. And I think if English isn't your native language, or for me in German, sometimes in the past I may have been nervous and tried to hide that perhaps, and maybe said less than I would have. I don't think that was what was happening to me with this guy. I don't think it was a language issue. I think it was just that he didn't have very good people skills. But I think sometimes when you're speaking in another language, you have to be careful, because certainly when I was learning German, I tried to say as little as possible, because then I had less chances of making mistakes. But really, I think sometimes, especially customers, they might not mind a few language mistakes if they can get the impression that you are interested in them, you are committed to doing what you said you're going to do, and that you want to engage with them. So going back to my meeting with this lovely lady, we finished the meeting. I had a good, clear idea of what she could offer, and I was happy with that. In fact, I will probably end up spending more with her than with the other guy, but I'm happy to do that, because she convinced me that she was able to fulfill my requirements, and made some suggestions of things that I didn't think about, because I'm not a professional in her field, so she is. So I was happy to listen to her. And now, if I have to see her again, as I will, I will feel fine about that. Whereas this other guy, I know if I got his name on an email, or if I knew I was going to meet with him, I would automatically feel tense. I was like, oh, that guy, he doesn't understand how to work with people. So, these things are really important, because they will shape how people think about you and how people see you. So I just wanted to talk about that, because I think we can really focus on the bigger things. If we're having an event or something, or if there's a big launch for a product or something like that, we put so much time and effort into making sure everything is right. But the way you answer your phone, the way you speak to customers when you have meetings with them, the way you answer emails, also shapes your relationship with the customer. And it's not just the big thing. Sometimes it's just you can brighten someone's day somehow. Your attitude and the way you speak to people also says something about your business, and as much sometimes as the website or the information. Because in terms of the first guy, I was already there. I was in his office ready to do a business transaction, but his behavior made me look elsewhere. So it's not just about getting customers to you, it's about how you make them want to stay. And yeah, if you're doing that in English, I know it's perhaps not so easy as in your native language, but it's still, I think with this kind of thing, people will see your intentions as well as your language. So of course, try to make your language as good as it can be, but people will also make their value judgments about you based on your personality, what they see of who you are. And I think that's something else we need to think about, because when you are speaking in another language, you sometimes have to it takes some time before you can really be yourself. And I think that's important to try, because for example, when I started speaking German, people thought that I was really shy, and I'm not. And that didn't help me, because people came to wrong conclusions about me. The problem was that I was a bit shy about speaking, but as an individual, I'm not shy. So it's really good to, as much as possible, to try and be yourself, because then people will know what kind of person you are, and people want to do business with people, and it would be easier for them if they can get a glimpse of your real personality, even although it's sometimes a bit harder to do that in another language. So that isn't really a specific tip this week, but I wanted to share about this experience, because I think that these small things can be overlooked sometimes. And certainly for the guy that I was telling you about in my story, that lost him money. Quite a lot of money, but I'm glad, because it meant that I went to find somebody who I think will do the job much, much better. So for me, it was good. For him, he lost out. And I don't want that to happen to you. Okay, just before I go, I wanted to mention that the November online business English Kirsty Club is running at the moment. So that's closed at the moment, but if you want to join in December, when we'll be talking about dealing with problems, complaints, what to do in situations where communication hasn't gone well and how to make sure that those situations don't arise. So if you want to join us in December in the club, use code Labrador12, so Labrador12, the numbers 12, and you will get the first month for £10 instead of the £15 that you would usually pay for 1 month. So you can find more information. I'll link it from the show notes page, but you can also go to englishwithkirsty.com/club, or you can go to the show notes page for this episode, which is englishwithkirsty.com/podcast/episode 68. And all the information will be on there, and you can also sign up if you would like to. Okay, so I hope that was useful, gave you something to think about. Have a good week and have fun learning English. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the English with Kirsty podcast. If you have any questions or comments, my email address is kirsty@englishwithkirsty.com, or you can go to www.englishwithkirsty.com/podcast, where you'll find information about the individual episodes.